Welcome back to the FireStorm podcast. That's right, you guessed it. It's another album review. We're here to review the OST for Frieren Beyond Journeys at... Just kidding.
Just the OST. We're doing an album review.
I fooled you.
Just the soundtrack.
You all fell for it. Every last one of you fell for it. No, it's been a hot minute, but we're doing another anime review. We're taking a little bit of a deep dive into one of the most popular anime of this year and last year, also because it crossed the calendar barrier. Frieren Beyond Journey's End. So this is a show that I first caught wind of. Obviously, I'm going to talk a little bit as being not the anime man, because that's someone else entirely, but of the two of us.
The manga lad.
The anime man.
The manga lad. I reckon.
So this is the manga lad. That's about right.
Mm-hmm.
This is a show I first caught wind of. Giguk has been a prophet. He was a prophet last year. He actually he did a whole video on this manga. I don't know if the anime had been announced at the time, but he did do a video on the manga and said, this is gonna get you in your feels. Like you should read this if you like fantasy stuff. I don't know when that was, but it was a long time ago because I remember watching it and then immediately forgetting about it. So I was like, I'm not gonna read that shit. And lo and behold, here we are now. But the anime is done by the anime adaptation started in fall. It was done by Madhouse,
Mm-hmm.
and which I didn't realize how stacked Madhouse's record is. They're the animation studio. They have done some of possibly the greatest anime of all time. They are responsible for all the seasons of One Punch Man, the 2011 Hunter x Hunter, probably one of the greatest anime ever. Parasite, Death Note, every season of Overlord.
They've got bangers.
No Game, No Life.
They've got fucking bangers at the wazoo.
I'm not done yet. No Game, No Life. High School of the Dead. Every season of the irregular Magic High School. And the certified classic Black Lagoon. Those are only the ones that I knew. There were more. So
fucking...
They are responsible for some of the greatest anime ever. So... Lo and behold, this, it's sitting atop the My Anime List rankings still, at number 1 as the highest rated anime ever, so we can say it's up there now. This is an incredible adaptation, just from a manga standpoint, because it's the visuals, the pacing, it's just really well done. So... But the reason we're really taking a look at this, because obviously I'm gonna talk about it again when I do my little roundup video in a few days, whenever the rest of the season stuff ends, is because this is the first anime in years that you've actually really liked.
Yeah, it is a genuine surprise. It caught me off guard completely. I've not watched a substantial amount of anime as of late. I've slowly last year started to get back into some shows after just doing nothing about watching anything. I've been just in my own headspace doing my own thing. That's probably why we haven't done an anime podcast in that long. Literally, we talked about Ruby Volume 9 and Ruby. We talked about the Pokemon movies. And then it was ReZero Season 2 Part 2, which was 2021 or some shit. We have not talked about a lot because I've just... you're doing your own thing on your channels, talking about anime, doing covers, and I'm just over here nah, I'm good. I'm doing my own shit. I don't really want to watch a lot. But when I started watching Frieren, it caught me off guard because I hadn't watched the Giguk video, and I had... The only preconceived notion I had about this show was that, it's just really, really good, and it's a very nice pace. And I am of the mindset nowadays of, if I'm going to watch a show, I'm going to go all in on it, and if there's a few things that just are annoying, if it's an annoying show, if there's annoying parts that I just don't like and I lose interest in very easily, I'll just drop it. I don't feel I have the time to dedicate towards shit that I don't care about. And Frieren at every turn subverted my expectations, which is very weird because when you come, like, it's almost like it's an anime to kick all the other anime tropes to the fucking side, because I'm so used to being like, oh, watch this show. I watch the show, and there's like 100 different tropes or 100 different things which I've definitely seen before, and I'm like, I don't care, I don't want to see this again. And as soon as I started watching Frieren, I saw what I believed to be a few tropes popping up, but then they were immediately stamped out. And it's like, nope, we're not doing that. We're doing something else. And I'm like, oh, that is awesome. Like, that is different. And you know what? All right, I want to see what happens. Like, pure example, latest episode, the final episode dropped today. We've both watched it, obviously. The character Werble, I don't know how to pronounce his name. They're all German. How do you pronounce it? Werble? Werble! I don't know how to...
Werble.
German names. Werble, he started off as like, oh, he's a guy that looks like he would fucking kill anyone. He doesn't... Like, he looks like he doesn't care about people, and he would kill people because that's in his nature. And then he literally just has a brief conversation with Frieren, tells him, like, about his backstory and about how he was influenced by Himmel, and, like, he cares about Himmel's smaller stories rather than the large, grandiose ones, and that's what inspired him to get out. And it's like, you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense, and that is, like, very heartwarming. Like, I expected him to be the dick. Like, there's no one... I don't dislike any character, which is another thing which is incredibly difficult to pull off in any form of media. Like, even the bad guys, they have a certain angle to them where you're like, okay, that's just in their nature, but you don't necessarily hate them. Like, obviously, yeah, you like some characters more than others, but I don't hate a single character that was introduced in this show, which is fucking baffling to me. I'm like, I don't know. It wrapped me in immediately, and I'm glad I stuck through it because, as you said, it's now number 1 on my anime list, and I almost want to ask in comparison. So, have you read the manga or any part of it?
Yes, I have. So that was one thing I was going to save towards the end, but yeah. So over the past week, I caught up, so I'm current.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm just assuming the characterization for each character is pretty spot on in regards to adaptation, right? Likewise.
Yeah. So for the most part, when you see manga or anime adaptations of manga, 9 times out of 10, you can read the manga and they'll say exactly the same stuff, panel for panel.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Something about... Like, I'm trying to just think about like other shows I've watched that have really brought me in and kept me going this long. And
well, because I was gonna say, we've been friends for what, going on 5 years now. I genuinely don't think I've ever seen you so or maybe not invested, but enjoying an anime as much as you did with Frieren. I don't think that's ever happened.
Yeah, like I because everything was, I'm not going to say perfect because nothing's perfect, but in regards to like every show I've ever watched before, nothing has just like met expectations, surpassed them, and has had a perfect balance of everything. And I know we were talking briefly about animation comparison between like Frieren and Jujutsu Kaisen, and you were saying stuff like how Jujutsu Kaisen fucking blows it out the water, even though they're both still incredible. Yeah. They're both still amazing.
Yes. They are.
I've never just come into a show where everything was just kind of perfectly thought out and perfectly executed. and like I literally like everything made sense. The animation was flawless, and it was stupid when it needed to be, like with some facial expressions, and then it was epic when it needed to be with some fight scenes.
Yep.
Like some of the fight scenes in my head, I was like, oh, this would be cool if it was like 10 seconds longer, but it doesn't need to be because it's proving the point of like how strong these characters are. So if they want to have just a couple seconds of flashy animation, but it wasn't even just flashy animation, it was impressive animation. Like, I remember everyone...
I was going to say, I think in probably retrospect, saying JJK blows it out of the water is probably a little bit of an overstatement, because I actually have seen people, like, talk about how... Because I don't know anything about animation. I think JJK's animation is more visually impactful, but, like, in that regard, certainly, yes. But... Friren's animation is like more subtly done. Like, it's smaller things that you wouldn't notice if you didn't care. Like stuff like the hair and like perspective stuff that they do during fight scenes that are unusual. Like, I think probably the most outstanding fight scene was the one where Stark, was it against the dragon? It was in his introductory and his first thing he does. That's probably the most visually impressive. At least to an amateur like me, but not even an amateur, like a fucking dumbass idiot who knows nothing. But like the it's just you're right. It's more like perfectly crafted. It's like it knows what it wanted to do from the get go. Like the entire planning behind it, and then the execution of the animation, like the storyboarding, and then the execution of the animation is like flawless. It really is.
Yeah.
Like. You
mentioned the subtle things. Like, I remember everyone popping off on Twitter over the subtle animation of like Stark putting on his jacket at one point, and how fluid and like it almost looked like it was crafted one from one. You recorded someone putting the jacket on and just put an anime filter over it. It was like somehow perfect one for one. It's like, man, I didn't know motherfuckers could do this shit. Like this, like it's such a small attention to detail, but it means that it literally demonstrates just how much care was put into this, and it is astonishing to me. Like I know there was a lot of things with the music. The music was terrific. I was a massive fan of the soundtrack, and like there are a few songs. I think that on Spotify currently there's only like the parts of it. I'm not sure what the deal is. But there's only a part of it on Spotify right now. But I remember there was a few tracks that got replayed, like during fights or whatever, which is fair. But like everything, animation, music, the characters and the character voiceover, the voice actors as well, in English and Japanese. Like I've watched it all in Japanese. I've watched the first few episodes in English, and I wanted to see the episode where Stark and Fern danced. I wanted to hear the English voice actor's performance in that, and that was still phenomenal. Like all around, I've never had the chance to sit and just bear witness to something this perfect in my mind in regards to anime. Because like I was trying to say before, I've watched a lot of shows, and I'm used to a lot of tropes, and I'm used to a lot of things, and that's why when something is just a bit different, it blows me out of the fucking water. But I've noticed a trend with some of my favorite anime are like 24, 28 episode long form series. Like literally Death Note, Code Geass, and now Frieren. And considering how old Death Note and Code Geass are, that's a fucking surprise that Frieren just stood out to me the way it did. And like I almost feel like I want to drop them down to a 9 now, because this is like not I don't know. I'm trying to gather all the words together, because like just I'm curious, the manga, how far ahead is the manga compared to the anime?
There is, I think so, this is just a guess based on what I remember. The anime leaves off at around chapter 60 to 62, somewhere in there, and there are currently 127 chapters. So there's a whole nother season's worth, essentially.
Well, there was that little tiny teaser at the end of the last episode. The journey to end continues. So
Yeah.
that's
That's
good
what they
to
said when Ash left the Pokemon anime too. So
see.
you know,
Okay, all right. Are we all going to take note from the Pokemon anime? Oh god.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not to end, but like the journey continues. It's just like it doesn't really mean anything necessarily. Like
Yeah.
I do think I do think there's going to be a season 2, but there's just not enough time right now. Like they can't announce it right now. They're still probably in like the very early stages of it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, give it all the time in the world. Let them cook. Like, no, what they've created, you can't shit out incredibly quickly. This is something that's taken clearly a lot of time. And I think I read, didn't the manga only start releasing in like 2020, something like that?
It's pretty recent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head, but
sounds about right.
Yep, April 28th, 2020. Yep.
So that some guy was like, I'm gonna, like, in the middle of the pandemic, was like, I'm gonna start creating creating just the most the well balanced, well crafted story. Like, so this motherfucker must have planned this shit out. Like, I'm not sure how the author is.
So like most good manga that have gotten anime adaptations in recent years, it's 2 people. So one person is in charge of the story and the other is in charge of the art. Oshinoko is like that. Blue Lock is like that. A lot of the anime that have gotten really popular in like the most recent 2 years are by 2 people, because I think it's got more potential that way. Like manga generally have more potential when one person is completely dedicated to the direction of the story and the other is completely dedicated to the art. So it just allows for a better, well, especially helps if they're on the same page. But yeah, stuff like that it's a trend, and I think it's going to continue because it is tricky to be a one man army.
Definitely,
those days might be behind us.
Yeah, definitely, and with the burgeoning success of all these adaptations from manga that has been created by 2 people, I think that's going to be a noticeable trend of like, oh, these are doing very well because they actually share the load. Like, good on them. Yeah. Share the load. Don't like. I'm glad. I hope the anime and manga industry of Japan starts picking up on this, and because we've talked about it before with fucking Espiritu, like, of the crunch. How like insane the crunch is over there. Yeah. So I'm glad.
Yeah, it's tough.
One thing that actually caught me off that I thought was kind of funny was that the music for the anime was done by an American composer. Like I would have just blindly expected a Japanese composer, but Evan Cole. He's American. He's from California. Good on you, man. Like that phenomenal work.
Go, buddy.
Good job. Let's do an album review.
True. There's been an influx of that too recently. There was a big deal recently about the first ever. I think I mentioned this to you actually, but the first ever, or it's like a recent episode of One Piece was the first episode to be directed by an American. I don't know which one it was, but it was entirely directed, like storyboarded, by an American guy. So that's happening more and more.
Let's go. Well, to describe Frieren, the show, as someone, the thing that you see a lot throughout Frieren is a very simplistic view in my mind. Like, it's got a very engaging story, it's got a very engaging premise, but a lot of the time it's also like just a simple idea. And even the name of the show and the manga describes that. As the English version, at least, is Beyond Journey's End. And that even reading that, I thought, oh, yeah, true. What happens after the journey is over? And like, if you're someone that likes fantasy, likes like the D&D aesthetic, like the old style of like, oh, I'm gonna go out and fight a dragon, or I'm gonna go out and be a mage, like the old sort of idea and story for fantasy. You never really think beyond the main journey, and that even that simple concept was enough to be like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna pay attention. And episode 1 immediately tug at your heartstrings with Frieren realizing I might have cared a bit more about these motherfuckers than I thought, because like that just that simple idea. Oh, this elf that's gonna live for 1,000 years and surpass several generations. You're gonna watch her journey and witness the people that she connects with and loses, and you're gonna be taken on a bloody ride. And I was like, okay, sure. And I didn't expect it to truly hit me in the heartstrings, especially like episode 1, straight up. Like you start thinking like Himmel, he's a little bit of a douche. He's all about himself, but then he's not. And then he quickly realized, oh no, that's actually on purpose. He's actually a really like upstanding gentleman, and you understand why Frieren had an attachment to the party, not because they defeated the Demon King, but it's because they all had genuine connections that, like, a lot of us in real life, you would have a connection with someone and kind of take it for granted. And I think that's the perfect viewpoint of using a character like Frieren to be like, oh, don't take it for granted. They're going to go away eventually. And that was back to the point of being so well crafted that you just think, oh fuck, I'm having an existential crisis now. Thank you, Frieren. Thank you, German. Why is everyone just a German name? That is, I don't know.
I wish I knew.
I don't know what sort of decision that was, because I immediately recognized a lot of these words, and a lot of them like, wait a minute. What is going on here? Why are they all German? It's an interesting.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you, but I have no idea.
Interesting decision. Yeah, it's such a strange thing for me, especially because you're right. I haven't felt like attached to a show properly for a while. There's been some shows I've just watched and immediately tossed aside and been like, yep, fuck it. That was a 4 out of 10. I don't give a shit. But yeah, no, this one hit different, and the ending was perfectly punctual as well. And it didn't leave me with a sense of like, oh fuck, like I am frothing at the mouth, eager for more. It's more so, I'm like, you know what? I'm happy. I'm happy with that conclusion of the anime, and if there's more, I would be more than happy for more. Because that's the story. That's the storyboarding. They did that on purpose. Of like, yep, time is gonna pass. There's gonna be large amounts of time passing. You're not gonna know how much time has passed between episodes, but too bad. And then it's just like it gets you it immediately adjusts you to the idea of like, yeah, time is going to pass. You're not gonna see a lot of these characters again. These random bitches that they just find. You're not going to see a lot of them. Like I was genuinely surprised when Sign just left. I'm like, oh,
yep.
Like I get it. I get why he's done that. He's got something to do. But like I thought he was, oh, yep, new member of the party. He's sticking around. But as soon as his story reached a different part, which didn't involve the rest of the party, they're like, oh, okay, I guess we'll leave. And I thought someone like Stark would have left by now, but he's sticking around, and I'm happy about that. And it's like everything just makes sense. Like, who wanted it to make sense? Todd Howard. Everything just makes sense. Everything just works.
It's all coming together now.
What are some of the characters are there any of the characters that you didn't like, or are you in the same boat of like everyone?
I don't think I disliked anybody. I can't name anybody, but there are, that's not quite as rare for me, I think. there are plenty of shows where I don't dislike anybody. I have a much lower bar for liking characters. I like even dumbass idiots or loud and stupid. So, but yeah, like I don't think I disliked anyone. I did have like some personal favorites, but I mean that's just because like, I think they're cute or sweet or whatever.
Well, now I know. Now I want to know who your personal favorites are.
Well, I mean, I like. Kane is actually one of my favorites. She's the sweetest little thing. I love her.
Yeah, you know what? I could have picked that out of a crowd. I could have picked that.
Yep, yeah. She's the sweetest little thing. I really like her. Lao Fen's funny. I think she doesn't really talk much, but I think she's funny as well. But yeah, of the main crew, there weren't any that like stood out. Of course, I really like Frieren. I think like the way they use her for like some gags sometimes, and the many sides we see of her is really charming. So of the main party, I think Frieren's my favorite, but that's not original or anything. Like because I don't want to say I didn't care for any of the other characters, because I totally did, but no, like the I was kind of like my view on the story. I've said it a gazillion times, but my favorite stuff is always the like long running, super involved, goddamn odysseys of shonen shows. Those are always like the ones that I get the most invested in, and the ones where with like characters I really care about and that kind of thing. Which have like, really compelling, always active doing stuff stories. So, and I've seen plenty of anime that kind of just chill around, but this one was different kind of chilling around, because they are journeying, but the sort of I kind of, even though it's formulaic to an extent, like the sort of idea where they have like they accept a mission or whatever. It's like some whatever mission to do some random bullshit, like kill a monster or like, I don't know, eat some grapes. Like, by the end, there's like a flashback to Friren's journey with Himmel and the others, and then you like have a life lesson to take with you by the end. Even that is like not bad, and I think it's unique and it's interesting to an extent, but it's not like, it's not like something I'm gonna like start getting out of my seat, and cheering for, and it's not supposed to be that, right? But like, what I'm saying is, personally, my favorite shows are the ones where I'm jumping out of my seat and clapping, but like, and that has happened, by the way, but like, I'm not just making that up, but like, and I was thinking about this, I think objectively, of all of the shows that I've talked or that I have talked about and will be talking about on the seasonal roundup videos I do, this is probably objectively the best one. Like, and I don't think it's a contest either, because, and we've said it's like this perfectly crafted package. Everything about it is well balanced. It's executed brilliantly. It's planned perfectly. I would argue this is even better than like Demon Slayer in terms of bringing the manga to adapting the manga to an anime and just making it better. Like, I would argue this is actually even better than Demon Slayer in terms of that. Like, it's because now that I've read the manga, I see like what they've made with the anime, because it's so brilliant. Like, they use like the storyboarding and everything about it is so well done, and that's, I think, my favorite part of this show is just how well balanced everything is, and well, like, perfectly executed. Like, there's no compromises. Clearly they made exactly what they were going for, like, from the beginning. Like, everybody who worked on this show is going to look back and be like, yeah, that's some of our best work, like, it's just brilliantly done. So like, I'm not super invested in the story or anything. I'm not like, I don't adore any specific one of the characters where I'm like, I I love them. That's me. You know, like whatever. That it's just like, this is cute and fun, isn't it? That's it. You know? And this it's perfect the way it is. Like it's not. It's totally up to personal taste, right? Like there are plenty of people who are going to prefer that and that style of story and want that out of their experience in watching. So I think for what it was and what it was going for, like, it might arguably be perfect. Like, it's not going to be the perfect story or the perfect watch for anyone. Like, you know, there are some contrarians on the old internets that are going to be like, Frieren's a 5.5. I didn't really care for it. Like, they're obviously just trying to bait people or don't care.
I even see that's the thing. Like, they're definitely going to be betas out there, 100%. Yeah. But I would even understand people genuinely being like, "Yeah, it's not for me." Like, I don't think anyone categorically would hate this show if you're just even non-anime fans. I reckon they could understand and feel some sort of empathy and feel some sort of relation with this show. And I don't think you have to care at all about anime. I don't think I can imagine a single person who would hate this because of its peaceful, simple nature that makes you think. Like, immediately, there are parts that just, like, give you the fucking warm feeling, like, oh, this is very nice. But, like, people not being invested, I could definitely see that, because it is, like, it's paced differently to a lot of shows, like, because a lot of shows, day by day, episode by episode, while this one's like, oh yeah, we're going to skip forward 10 years. It's like, what?
Yep.
It's just like, oh yeah, because you immediately recognize the fact of, like, oh wait, yeah, we're watching from the point of view of an elf that will live for beyond everyone else's time spans. Like lives, so it makes sense why they would choose to do stuff like that. And some people would lose investment because, like, oh, I want to know what happens here, but I'm not getting that. I'm not going to be bothered. Or it's just like, oh, it's too slow.
And it is arguably, like, you could make a pretty good argument, I think, for it being boring at some parts.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like, I can imagine some people would easily get bored by it because, like, there's not enough happening. Even because, like, we get a little piece of parts of Frieren's life, which again is a long fucking life, and it's not enough to keep people wrapped in, and which is fair. That's kind of why I think they did something like the mage class stages, like that whole arc.
Yes. Man. All of a sudden, like, I was like, let's go. Because when that arc hit, I was like, yes, this is my shit.
That's the thing. I was in the opposite boat. I was all in on random shit happening all the time. I was all in on that. And then they said, oh, nah, you're going to do this whole class exam fucking thing. And I literally, at first, I was like, oh, well, look, if there's going to be any part where I lose investment, it's going to be this. But then it immediately was like, haha, nah, get fucked. We're going to introduce, like, 10 new characters, which are all awesome and are all relatable. And it's all the classes are actually going to be really investing and have a lot of high stakes. And it's like, oh, well, you know what? Fuck me then for doubting you for a single second. Because this actually, like, it got me going as well. Like, oh, fuck yeah, I like all these characters. And they're like, oh god, like, if half the characters were, like, annoying and just, like, a turn off, then I would have fucking probably said, nah, I would have kept watching, but I wouldn't have cared about the show as much, because it's just like, oh great, I gotta deal with annoying dickhead over here that's just gonna be a piece of pain in the ass. But no, they were all really well made and really well introduced. Like, almost to a point where you could say, like, a lot of the characters have a very samey feel because they all are so, like, deadpan to a lot of situations. Because, like, I'm so used to, like...
That is admittedly part of Frieren's charm, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's so different than than a majority of other anime. Like, where it kind of, to an extent, like, that's part of like what makes it so odd for me is, like, I like my characters to be annoying and expressive. Like, I like when they're loud and stupid, because it very clearly gets across like what they're feeling to me, and I appreciate that about it. And I like the loud and stupid characters because I think they're funny. But that's besides the point. Like the dead, like the sort of, it almost feels detached, right? Like if you look at it from a very surface level, it feels like the characters are like detached from what's going on. But if you look at it like at any level deeper than that, you're gonna find that that's not the case. They're obviously like it's just they don't necessarily show it on their faces, but they are like invested in what's going on. And there are things that matter to them, and the story, like what's actually happening in front of them, is like they do actually try, and like considering various motivations, they will want to like give it their all, even if they're not like fucking furling their brows in anger or whatever. Like it's just, so if you look at it like that, then it's like, oh, so these characters actually are like, they have the motivations, and sometimes you see it in their backstory or whatever. Like they actually are involved and trying and like giving a shit. But like if you don't try to look past it, to look past their deadpan expressions all the time, then you won't see that. Which is a shame, because I think there are idiots who probably won't try.
Yeah,
but
you're right. Like the over express, like anime, a lot of the time they over exemplify a character and make them so loud, so obnoxious, like as a point of like, yeah, this is that character, like this is this character, and this is what they do, and like this is the personality they have. Whereas like I feel like with Frieren, they had every character start off on this line of like they exist and this is who they are, and then all of them just slowly branched out with little quirks that like was perfect. Because like honestly, if they just all walked around and they all talked the same and they all like none of them showed any expression, like you could say they're all the same, like they're all the exact same fucking character, but then they all have these tiny quirks which start to branch off and make them unique, which is the perfect form of character building, and which is so strangely opposite to what anime typically does. Like you would expect a character like Yubel to just start like cackling, laughing as she's slicing bitches up, but she's not like that. She does have that smirk of like, yes, I'm going to hurt you, but she's not over the top with it, which is phenomenal. And like Lorne and Kane, like they're friends and they bicker and they fight and they ruffle each other up, but they're still just friends at the end of the day. And like they're literally, I could see myself fighting my mate like that as a joke if we were young cute girls. If we had that sort of relationship, if we had that sort of relationship, I can imagine. Yeah, I'm gonna put you in a headlock, motherfucker. Like, come here, and like it's so interesting because like not a lot of stories do that or need that, and it's not actually necessary. Like from a writer's point of view, you don't need to have everyone on the same line because like everyone has grown up differently and everyone has experienced life differently, and like but whereas like they're trying to make a point in Frieren of like, oh, there's different generations around and Frieren has been a part of them, but it does seem like at a glance that everyone is very similar. The only character I would almost say is different is like Siri. I don't know how to pronounce her name. The
Zerie, yeah.
Zerie, yeah. Like that's the only character, the only character that's somewhat different. But even then, everyone has their own unique traits that branch off from that line that gets you invested in them. And like, even some people could look at it and say that's too simple. Like you could look at like Haita. Like
it does take its time. Yeah, it does take its time with it.
Yeah, Like, and I would understand some people were just like, oh, Haita, he's the drunk priest, ha ha. Or like Isen, he's the tough dwarf, ha ha. But like you see them to begin with, and then you see them develop and grow from that, and like become more than that, and you're like, okay, now I'm invested. Like I thought Werbel was just going to be the dick that liked killing people. But no, he actually really cared about his two partners in his party and like helped them out. And like he hated carrying them at first, and then at the end he was like, "All right, this is my thing now. I'll help you out." And it was nice. It was heartwarming. I thought he was going to be the asshole, but he made me my heart was warmed after witnessing his development. It's like,
well, there you go.
It's one of those shows that genuinely pays off with the development. And this is going to sound like, I don't know, some people are going to be rubbed off the wrong way from the way I explain this. Like, in comparison to, say, the last season of Demon Slayer, I felt nothing from most of the characters coming out of that last season because I was stuck in the same formula that Demon Slayer had developed. I watched the last season, first few episodes. Yep, here's everyone doing their thing. Awesome. Here's one of the Husherers again. Yep, sweet, awesome. All right, let's fight a demon. And then let's fight the same demon. Fight the same demon. Fight the same. Oh, like here's some backstory. Fight the same demon, and then it's like, what the fuck is this? And then it's just like you can skip half the episodes. Like, oh yeah, Nezuko can now be in the sunlight. Her power's great. Yeah, and I'm literally sitting there like, no new ground is being broken. We're fighting a fucking demon like usual. What? I don't care. Like literally coming out of the last season of Demon Slayer, I lost all care for it compared to like when I first watched season 1. And I don't know if that's just me being a bit more jaded and not giving a shit about and like just being a bit more harsh on the content I decide to consume. I don't know if it's that, but like I came out of the last season of Demon Slayer, like I don't want to watch more Demon Slayer. I don't care for it now. It's such a weird dichotomy. Is that a valid thing to feel, or is that a bit harsh? I
don't know. Brother, I've never been able to explain your thoughts on this kind of shit.
Yeah, for real. I'm trying. It's hard. It's difficult. But like, do you see what I mean? Like with Demon Slayer,
it does have a formula. Yes, Demon Slayer definitely has a formula, and it's the problem, especially I think with season 3 was, I don't think the villains, the demons they fought were especially compelling. I think they were mediocre in comparison to the previous big demons that they fought. And now that because it's kind of like middling at that point of Demon Slayer, where it's like, we already know what the deal with Tanjiro is. We already know what the deal with Nezuko is. I don't think Mitsuri or Tokito's backstories are especially compelling either. So they're just kind of like, it spent like 11 episodes dealing with that, with this demon who's kind of hard to beat up, and or two of them that were hard to beat up, and they, you're right, like it wasn't necessarily breaking any new ground, and you see like very typical with anime, like Tanjiro's thought process, like you see every single little thing he thinks about the process of having to fight this demon, which I don't think is necessary. But yeah, like if you don't care about Tanjiro's like thought process episode to episode and like his struggles as he tries to fight, or like even the other characters, right, like Mitsuri or Tokito, if you don't care about like their like the process they go through to defeat these demons, then yeah, like why would you care? And they didn't even explain, well, they haven't explained it yet, but they didn't explain why Nezuko is even allowed, like why she can be in the sunlight now. That doesn't even come until this upcoming season. So And I don't even know how far they're going to go with this upcoming season because, I mean, they're about to start the final arc. Like this is the stuff right before Demon Slayer's final arc, which, you know, I was talking to Ion about it the other day. We're super excited because Demon Slayer's last arc blows every single other one out of the water by a long shot.
Well, if we're this close to the end, I may as well stick at it. But like,
this arc is so much better than every single other Demon Slayer arc. It's not even close. Like, so yeah, I don't know. Like, I think you might be like a little on the harsher side, probably because you had like more expectations going in, and Demon Slayer is very much middling in this point. Like, we already know. Like, it's not necessarily breaking any new animation ground either, because we already know Demon Slayer has great visuals, but it's kind of just doing the same thing it's already done. So, and the only real ground is like, I think they had the 3D, like the big snakes doing it in the 3D, which I thought was really good, but I mean, that's just it. It's like 3D stuff.
See, like I was saying before, I could imagine if a show like Frieren was nothing but his random adventures throughout the entirety of Friren's life, I could imagine people eventually getting bored with that, and even myself. Like I said, I loved it. That was what kept me invested to begin with, because I cared about it. But I can imagine after a while it would get a bit like like, it's like how many different stories can you really create from that? And like, I could see why it got boring, but that's why they're like, okay, let's do this little arc that's entirely contained. Like, even the arc where they had to fight the demons, I thought that was cool, and that stood out. I was like, okay, so they can do shit like this, which is self-contained in a smaller timeline. Yes. And then the whole exam was like, yep, phenomenal, well done. And there was an escalation to the fight, because like I said, like, Demon Slayer, 6 episodes fighting the same demon. I don't like, it's called Demon Slayer, so that makes sense. Yeah. But like,
demons, there was 2 of them. Like, let's be fair here.
Yeah, okay, let's be fair. Like, there's the 6 episodes fighting the same 2 demons. Okay, cool. Yep. And there was a substantial amount of episodes dedicated to the exam, which is fair, but that was also a point of escalation which I was more invested in. And no doubt they had the point of escalation with Demon Slayer, like, they dodged this attack. Wow, we have to do this thing. And like, I don't know why. I'm trying to compare the 2.
It's better paced in Frieren. It's much better paced in Frieren. It's not this big, this big one fight where like every single problem has to be tackled. Like, every single minuscule issue. In the exam, you do see like many different parties' perspectives, but it's all happening pretty fast, and they're all like chasing after the same goal. Like in the first bit where they're trying to catch the supersonic Mach 5 bird or whatever. It's like they're all. It's not their goal, right? Is to catch the bird. It can detect your mana, and it flies really fast. The end. Like, that's the problem. Now, how do these like 5 different parties accomplish that? And really, you only see like Fern's party and Frieren's party actually accomplish that.
Yeah, you know what? That's the point of escalation. Like, Frieren builds it very well, whereas Demon Slayer, it was like constant, loud, dramatic music. Evil demon, constantly, constantly. Oh, this is the worst threat. Oh no! And like, after a while, you're like, fuck, man. Like, there's only so many times where a demon gets killed and then turns into its second form, and I'm like, what? Like, but whereas, like, you're right, Frieren had that build of escalation. It started off with something very simple: catch a bird, do this thing. Oh, here's the floors of this dungeon with all of these clones. Okay, let's slowly figure out how to defeat some of these clones, and then they realize, oh fuck, there's a clone of Frieren. This is gonna be tough. And then they build it very well, and that's probably why I cared more and was more invested. Like,
Yeah, and it helps you. I imagine you probably liked like the characters' journeys in Frieren up to this point more as well. You probably
definitely
found more enjoyment out of it. Yeah,
I
so that's
care
part
about
of it too.
I cared about the cast of Demon Slayer. Like, don't get me wrong. Like Tanjiro, Nezuko, but I don't give a fuck about Zenitsu. Admittedly, like there are parts of Zenitsu where I'm like he's a character which is of two extremes. He's either really cool or really annoying, and like.
Well, I just mean you probably cared about Frieren's characters and journey more, which is part of it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, whereas like, I shouldn't always compare it to Demon Slayer. That was just the thing we're talking about. But like a lot of shows they have the set. Yeah, like a lot of shows they have the set cast, and they're like, oh, like this is the cast, this is their story, and like Frieren did a very good job at giving all the side characters like very interesting like journeys themselves. Which, yeah, you're right. I did enjoy all of the characters substantially more compared to a lot of other shows. In fact,
that helps. Yep,
definitely. And like even something simple like, oh, these are demons which are so accustomed to just doing whatever they want, to lying. They don't have any empathy, and then they immediately get their shit fucking taken out by Frieren, and you're immediately like, okay, wow. They tried to make a big deal of these demons for all of 10 minutes before Frieren kicked their ass. Like, that was definitely just a demonstration of Friren's ability and her power, which is fair.
What with that one pink-haired girl, Aura?
Yeah. I'm also thinking about the other three demons, because like that one shot of that one dickhead going into the jail trying to hang her, and she's like, I'm gonna cut you in half, bitch. Boom. Like, oh, yeah. You forget for a brief second, she is like one of the most powerful motherfucking mage users out there. Like, goddamn.
Yep. Yeah, and actually, legitimately, one of my favorite things about Frieren as a whole is the way they treat their demons. It is unlike any other show with even like, you know, just it's as a different species. It's like how it handles the demons, where they're born without that sense of empathy and they don't understand, and they're born with an instinct to kill humans. And, you know, it's also part of it is because it's after Frieren's main, you know, the journey that changed the world where they took out the Demon King. Since it's after that, Frieren has no reason to trust the demons, and it makes for a really interesting dynamic where the demons are so accustomed to lying and trying to have their own way and eventually come around to killing people, where they have a bunch of other humans fooled, but Frieren never falls for it, and, you know, maybe intentionally plays into their hands a little bit so she can get closer to them and eventually get rid of them. Like, there's no other show I've watched that has this kind antagonists like that, and it makes it really interesting. And I'm not going to spoil too much, but the magic test arc was very good, but I think the Frieren's best arc is later in the manga, and it revolves around demons, and it's pretty long.
Okay, because they're going up north, and I know the goal, at least still for Frieren, is to visit that place where you can speak to the dead or whatever it was. Like, there's still that continuous goal there in mind.
Right.
So
again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the demons present such an interesting moral dilemma. Where is it a dilemma? I don't even know. But it's just like thinking about morality and stuff. Like, it's so peculiar and unique. Like, there is a character in that arc I'm talking about in the manga where they have spent a very long time studying human behavior and observing it and trying to find patterns in it. But there's another demon in that same arc who actually, like, wholeheartedly wishes for coexistence with humans. They want to coexist with humans, but but they can't understand certain feelings that humans have, like like guilt or like malice or anything like that. They can't understand those feelings, so therefore they can't actually actualize the wish for coexistence. And the one who spent a long time studying human behavior was like, dude, there's no shot. Like, stop wishing for this impossible dream. It's never gonna happen. And the guy, the other one, the guy who wants coexistence, is like, I'm still gonna try anyway. And so it's very interesting moral dichotomy. That
so it's
I
like
really
it's
like.
like that the moral dilemma that's very typical of like, oh, what happens when a robot starts getting emotions? Like that
Yes.
sort of wall of like this thing
Yeah.
that was born without any of these traits starts to develop some of these traits. How should we treat that going forward?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But
I like that.
it's
That's
the
good.
demons are incapable of feeling that kind of thing. But yeah, I think that's Friren's best arc. Of course I really like all the characters in the magic test, the first class mage test arc, but I think just the intrigue and then the moral, and I think the fighting is a little better in the manga arc as well. But yeah, I'm sure that'll be in season 2 for sure. But that's a really good one. So probably I think that's my favorite one of all of them, but there's not many. There's only like
Because
4.
I just noticed on the Frieren wiki, there's like 5 more arcs beyond what we have.
Yeah. So I think a good
explored in
chunk
the
of the
anime.
chapters, since the anime has ended, were those like sort of episodic ones where they like take a mission. There's a flashback at the end. And I think one of the reasons I don't like the manga as much is because and this will probably happen to some extent in the anime as well, but the manga usually just doesn't show fight scenes. Like if they're taking out a monster, it's just like maybe a couple panels, and then of like in their small panels of them fighting, and then after that, it's like Stark's like, "Wow, that guy was strong." Anyway, and that's it.
So,
But
in
at the same
comparison
time,
to the
I completely
actually,
recognize that Frieren doesn't need the fighting scenes. It's just not necessary. It's not what it's about. So I recognize that, but I don't have to like it.
So wait, in comparison, are those scenes expressed with like 5-10 second fight scenes in the anime? Or
They
is
might
are
be.
they
Yeah,
not
I don't
included?
remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember because the chapters I'm thinking of haven't been adapted yet. So I
Okay.
imagine it's probably similar the way they do it in the because I don't know, because like if I were to think about it, like I don't know how Stark's scene like where he fights the dragon is done in the manga. Like I have no idea. So but I imagine that was probably it was probably worked on quite a bit. Like they probably added a lot to that fight in the anime. Like I don't think that was quite as well fleshed out in the manga. I have to imagine anyway. But I don't know. So
Mhm. No, fair enough.
but yeah. That's probably like my one qualm. Other than that, it's like a little boring sometimes, but the manga is pretty solid.
Like, if anything, I almost kind of wish, like, there was a few times where they interrupted certain battles to talk about or have a little bit of a flashback, where, like, in those scenarios, I would have preferred just have the battle, then have the flashback. Like, I know you're trying to extend the battle a little bit, which is fair, but, like, I'm already accustomed to shorter battles in Frieren, so, like, I wouldn't care. Like, I wouldn't
Right.
mind if, like, that again, like, that's the very minor of minor qualms. But everything else
Yeah.
was very intriguing and very interesting. And, like, I almost would, like, that part of the intrigue and part of the, like, nature of Frieren is, like, you know she is incredibly powerful. And, like, everyone has said it multiple times, and they said, we can see fluctuations in your aura, like, we can tell in your manner, like, we can tell how powerful you are. But that is still like not really reached its ceiling when it comes to displaying that to the audience, which is fair. Like, in some ways, you want to be like, I don't want to know how powerful she is, because, like, there are follies to her. And, like we sort of saw it when she had to fight herself, and Furīren was able to fucking help take out the clone. But, it's almost like there's a ceiling with everything. We don't know what Frieren is, and I would kind of like to get an idea of that, just so I know if there's going to be any, like, stakes. Because that's the other thing. Throughout all of this, like, despite how magnificent, fucking awesome this shit is, I don't think there's been, like, any real stakes. Like, because, like, I don't think any of these fuckers are actually gonna die. Like, that is something they've yet to pull out the wazoo. Like, yeah, they killed Himmel straight away. They implied Aeson and Haito, like, yeah, they're all down, they're gonna fucking die. But, like, throughout all these fights, as impactful, as awesome, as incredible as they were, like, there was never any real urgency, which is okay in a show like this. Like
the last thing I think of when I think of Frieren is urgency.
Exactly, zero urgency. So, which would have peaked, like, the highest stake of urgency I remember was when Friiren's clone fucking sent Fern into the wall.
Yeah,
and then, like, I think she literally said something like, "Is this the height of magic?" or something like that. Like, that was the only time where I genuinely was like, oh, fuck. Like, that was the only time where I was just like, what? Like, and that was good. Like, there's a slight hint of, okay, she is capable of so much more. But, yeah, I think that's on purpose, though, because clearly there's so much more story to explore. So I'm sure we will see more in the future. Yeah. But, like, even more of Friiren's past, like, because we've seen her with Flam, fuck, and then with the Heroes Party, and, like, there was no point in between, because it did really seem to be like, yep, Flam by herself, Heroes Party. It's like, was that what you did for the first fucking few hundred years of your life? Like, if that is it, then, like, okay, fair enough. But, like, I would like to see more of, like, we got, like, a couple scenes of Flam teaching her how to conceal her mana, just so demons couldn't sense it. Like, I do want to see more of that, because so often it just gets cut back to, oh yeah, here's something with the Heroes Party and Himmel being adorable and why she likes Himmel. Yep, okay, cool. But, like, I do want to see a bit more of past Frieren to get an idea of just how powerful she is. And, like, we had small glimpses of that. I would like a bit more if possible. And also, I love the way they're setting up Fern to be like, oh yeah, she's gonna fucking overtake Frieren, no problem. I love the way they're just like, oh yeah, she's gonna be, like, so much better. I'm just like, I want to see that. Like, everyone, they've said it a few times. Like, okay, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it to see this happen. Fucking man, it's so good, bro. Fuck me. This shit. What I am jealous of the storytelling in this, like how they were able to just introduce small concepts in each episode and bring them back around and, like, fulfill them. Like, just the storytelling of this is, like, second to none, and I am extremely jealous. This was phenomenal. I don't know. I could gush about it for ages, but it would just go back to me repeating certain aspects of it. What Do you think that this is like you said it before, but do you think this is a worthy number one? Because I remember watching part of the Trash Taste podcast where like when Frieren was still in the middle of its release, and they were saying like, "Oh, fucking hate it when people do this. Like a new show comes out that's so hyped, and people are so hyped about it, and rank it number one on Mal, and then it falls back down because it's just the hype at the time." But like, yeah, the final episode has just aired, but it's still number one. What does that tell you?
I gotta tell you, I think it does deserve number one. It might not stay there, but like, yeah, I think it can stay there for as long as it wants. If you're asking me, I don't care how long it stays there. It is that good. I do think it is that good. Like, it's just, I think the biggest thing, and this is just me as like someone who's seen a shitload of anime, speaking my pure conjecture, but I think this happened to you. The biggest impact it leaves as a show, I think, to the average viewer, is the fact that it treats its characters and story like it's not an anime, right? It's an anime but doesn't feel like one. So that, like, it has characters, but they don't fucking scream and shout. They're not super over exaggerated in any way. The storytelling is extremely subtle, but if you're looking for it, you can find it. Just the characters and the way they're built up, and then how they interact with each other feels really natural. They don't push the comedy too hard at any point. Like, the sense of humor is really nice and like very light. So it's not ever trying to make you bust out laughing, but it does have its gags here and there, and the running gags, they actually sometimes get funnier as the show goes along. Like, I gotta tell you, the hardest I laughed when Frieren got her ass stuck in a treasure box in a mimic was like towards the end. Like,
just like, where are the ladies of the hour? Where are the ladies that have taken out the big threat here? Oh, she's stuck in a fucking box again.
Yep.
Well done.
Yeah, like, it's never too much. It never tries to lay it on too thick, and a lot of anime really do lay it on thick, especially if you're looking at a lot of the classics. Like, you have your loud and obnoxious cast of One Piece. You have a loud and obnoxious cast of Naruto. Like, loud and obnoxious cast of Black Clover, potentially annoying cast of My Hero Academia and Demon Slayer. Like, there are a lot of casts of characters that immediately come off as annoying to the average viewer, and that is not the case in Frieren. Everything is unique and different, and I think that's what leaves the biggest impact on the average viewer. In my mind, I think that it's just because of the way it treats its characters and the way it treats its story, where it's consistent, and like, it always comes back around to Frieren's journey with the Heroes Party. It's something you can come back to and know what to expect. Like, the best, you said it, the best adjective I could give for Frieren is peaceful. Despite all of the fighting, it feels peaceful to watch it. When you watch it, you feel peaceful. Like, it's just a nice show to watch. And there's not any quirks about it that could make you hate it necessarily. Like, it's just a really well-crafted show with great visuals to back it all up, by the way. Fucking astonishing animation. Like, there are legitimately, there are no buts about Frieren, right? It's not like, oh, it gets good, or that One Piece is really good, but it only gets good around episode 200. There's no, Naruto's really good, but the main character is super annoying. Like, there's no buts, right? Like, it is what it is. It's a very self-contained thing, and it's not, like, it doesn't wait to do what it wants to do. It gets its point across nice and easy. It never feels laid on too thick. It's just really nice to watch, I think. So,
do you think there was like a gap in the market for something like peaceful? Because like,
yes,
that's the thing.
do.
Well, I'm
Absolutely.
so used to just like, yeah, you're right, fucking shonen shows, or like shows where like everyone is very emotional, very like I could. There was a few scenes where like I can imagine characters losing their fucking shit at being insulted, or like someone they know or care about getting hurt. I can imagine other shows would have had people overreact, like, oh my god, just fucking freaking out. But like they literally were just like, no, we're gonna have a bit more genuine, realistic reactions. Yeah, at some points you could imagine people. Realistically, I would be a bit more emotive if this happened, but fair enough. Like, you're right. It is just so different from anything I am used to watching, and like, yeah, it's an anime that I could imagine like it not being an anime, but just because it's got the anime style, yeah, we lump it in with anime, but it is so different. Like, I reckon that must have been done on purpose. Of like, you know how everyone is like doing all this. Let's have the same kind of premise, like fantasy. Yep, cool. Elves. Yep, love it, awesome. But we're not gonna do that. All that shit. All that stuff that we know people have seen a million times.
Yes.
Or are used to. Like, and yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it on the head. And good on them. Like, and they tossed it up and made it different as soon as like there was any inclination of yeah, this could get a bit boring. Let's change it up. Let's do something different. Introduce someone else, a new obstacle to tackle, and yeah, it just worked perfectly. And I know you have a little bit of a thing for the music for it as well, because you did one of the covers. Like, you did a cover of one of the.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Okay, sorry. I've been waiting to do a cover of a Yorshika song, and they did Haru, which I love. I love that song. Yorshika's in a wonderful band. A lot of their songs are, it's one of the only Japanese bands I've got into without them having an anime opening that I knew. I didn't know. I think they've had a couple anime openings before this, but not many. And they have gained like renown in Japan even without that. So when they did Haru, I was like, let's go! Because it's perfect for them. It's a perfect style for, like, when I think of Frieren, I think of Haru. Like, I think of that song. Like, it's like I do like the Yoasobi one too. I do like that one quite a bit. But Haru just nails it. It nails the vibe. It's great. Like, the music, the OST is great too, of course. But Yorshika is such a good band, and I'm so glad they got the chance to do this opening. Legitimately one of my favorite songs in a while. Like, it's just because Haru is like Frieren. It's a simple, light, very peaceful song that still has a little energy behind it, where it's got like this sense of drive almost, where like it's going, and like especially during the chorus where like you can feel it going, but it's still like peaceful. So when I heard they were doing Haru, I was like, oh man, is this finally my time? Is this what I've been waiting for? Is this the moment I've been waiting for my whole life? Not my whole life, but like 2 years. I just couldn't help it. I really, like, I kind of thought it was out of my range of things that would sound good for me, but ironically, it's my highest performing song of the whole year so far. So
there you go. Look at that.
Yeah, so I'm glad I did it because it's something a little different, and I really love Yorshika. So I'm glad they did that. It's such a wonderful song.
See, that's the thing. You're right. I loved Yusha. I think it was called, like
Yusha.
Yeah, Hero. Like, I loved that song as well, and like they didn't the.
It's no idol, but yeah, it is good.
Yeah. Yoasobi, they did an English and a Japanese version, and both are incredible. But you're right, Haru is like perfectly like matches Frieren like to a T. Whereas like Hero, like just called Hero is the English name. Like, it was very good, very enjoyable, upbeat, and I had a bit of a groove to it. Yeah, fucking Haru is just like, yep, perfectly matches the tone. And anytime, anywhere, and the like extra version, the different cut version.
It was just the second
second
verse,
half.
It was just the second verse of the full song.
Yeah, like again, very suitable, and I think that song kind of brings back the that song reminds you of, oh yeah, remember how like the journey's eventually going to end. It will be a bit sad, and like Frieren is going to be the only one that continues. Like that's what that song reminds me of, because it reminds you of like coming back home. And like fuck, man, like that again built it perfectly. They couldn't have chosen. Well, I don't know, that's arguable, but about choosing better artists. But the songs they did choose fit the narrative and fit it perfectly. And like, that's another thing. Like, I don't dislike any of the songs. I don't dislike any of the soundtrack. Like, it's just somehow it all works.
I think it would be hard to make like an OST song that's just like, wow, this sucks. You know, like, because the OST is like,
there were a few instances where I heard a song and I was like, oh, I've heard this one before. Okay, that works. But like, I didn't really dislike them. I was like, oh yeah, I've heard this one before. Bit more variety wouldn't have hurt, and maybe, but yeah.
Well,
it all works.
If I didn't want to hear the same songs over again in the same situations, I would not like Persona very much, huh?
Bro, that genuinely no. Oh god, anyway. I can't hear it. I can't hear that over and over again and just want to fucking shoot myself.
Oh, speaking of shooting yourself, I have something special to share with you.
Oh no! Don't do it! Don't do it! Don't do it!
Oh, I'm doing it.
Oh no! We were talking. Didn't you post it? Didn't you literally say something about it on X, on Twitter?
Yes.
Like,
there you go.
About,
have
an
fun.
artist you follow
have
shared
fun.
something. Oh no! Is that one? No. Oh god!
Wait, what? How many likes does it have now? 111,000.
Yeah, I think that artist is quite notorious for their Furīren work. I've seen one of their posts before. Yeah, there you go. No one needs context for that, what we just saw there. Anyway, I think we've covered all the ground we need to.
Anyway.
Frieren is just a show, like, to put it in simple terms from my point of view, Frieren is just one of those shows that is just a standout in every single way, and like, it's one of those shows where everyone, like, because I'm one of those people that if someone says to me in my face, this shit is awesome, you need to see this, a lot of the time I'll ignore it. And I don't give a yeah, like, I've done that so many times. But Frieren is just one of those shows where it's like, you know what? I've just been told it's good, and then it's defied expectations beyond belief. And I am very happy that I watched it. I have a Frieren figure eventually arriving. I think like another month or two before it actually gets released.
Which one did you get?
On my shelf. So there's that pair of Fern and Frieren sitting next to each other. I just got the one of Frieren sitting.
Oh.
Because I have a figure of Weiss sitting, of Ice Queen and Weiss sitting. I'm going to put them next to each other.
Oh,
so
nice.
I was like, oh, that would be funny. So I just did that. That's the only reason I'm doing it.
Wait, I don't know what that is.
So, yeah, I'm fucking astounded with Frieren, and if there's more, I can't wait to talk about it, and I would like to talk a bit more about story and whatnot, but I think we've covered all the ground we need to. It's just a special thing, and I'm glad I got to watch it, and I'm glad I kept up with it, because I never keep up with shows weekly anymore. Like last time I properly did was during the pandemic and Ruby. Like, they're the only things I keep up with weekly. So, man, and Ruby looks like I might be kicking the bucket. So,
True.
Yeah, it looks like I gotta get back into it and watch more shows.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's any final thoughts to give the audience before we wrap this up?
Since I read the manga, I didn't keep track of all of them, but I kept track of 2 that I thought were funny. They were in the manga. Obviously, whenever they do quests, they ask for a reward in the form of a grimoire, of a new spell that Frieren can cast. And I wrote down 2 of them that I thought were funny that Frieren got. The first one is she asks for a grimoire from someone, and they give her one that lets you cast a spell that lets you flip pancakes perfectly every time.
That is fucking awesome.
And then the second one I thought was funny was she got a spell that makes a paper airplane fly really far.
Wow.
So there you go.
That's awesome. That's perfect.
There were more, but I didn't write them down. There you go.
That's perfect. Flip pancakes perfectly and make paper airplanes fly really far. Perfect.
Yeah.
You don't need much more than that.
That's it. That's all she wrote.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to our little discussion about Furīren Beyond Journey's End. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below if you want to discuss it. More than welcome. And we've got a few more podcasts coming up. We're doing we're doing predictions for WrestleMania 40, and then after that, episode 80 is going to be in person.
Yay! In my office.
If the Department of Homeland Security doesn't stop me, if U.S. Customs and Border Protection doesn't stop me from traveling over, we should be doing an episode in person. And I am very, very excited.
And probably a good chunk of Persona 3 Reload, so stay tuned.
Oh, yeah. It's gonna be like a solid day or two, just like, yeah, let's Persona this bitch.
Yeah, it's probably gonna have to be more.
Oh god, we got some other, like, there's some other games we're thinking about playing. Like, I don't think that shouldn't take too much time, but yeah, there'll be a decent amount of Persona being played.
Yes.
So very keen for that.
We're behind.
We are behind. I have been busy.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching and listening. Make sure to subscribe, and we will.
And stay tuned if you want to hear more about anime. I'm doing the seasonal roundup in a few days, so I'll talk about I'll talk about Frieren and also like 20-something other different anime that I watched. So come back.
Check out Silver Talks for that. Make sure you do that. All right. And
so there's
thank you everybody.
All the anime talk you could ever want.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how you're not already done in by this, but whatever. Bye.
You'll get more. You get more.
Yeah, even more.
Just take it more in your mouth. Right?
Yeah. Anyway.
Bye. Try not to let 1,000 years pass you by without paying attention to it.
Bye. Hey, you know, our outros are really quick because it'd be embarrassing if we met. Whatever. Fuck off.
I don't know what you're trying to do.
Don't you remember at the very end, brother, of Frieren, where she was like, "Why do you say your goodbye so fast? Because it'd be embarrassing when you meet again." Duh.
Yeah, so don't have a weepful goodbye that this episode's ending, because next time we have an episode, it would be very embarrassing. It would be like, why the fuck were you crying so much?
Yeah, what are you,
stupid bitch? Stupid fucking crybaby bitch.
Anyway. I didn't
don't let your bell piss on you. Anyway.
Debatable.